Led by a lifelong interest in healing, Dr. Linda Salvin pursued an advanced degree in epidemiology. Then, after dramatic near-death experiences, Dr. Linda saw the other side and returned with gifts of insight, visions, and revealed wisdom. Now those gifts are ongoing, and she's here to share them with you. Get ready to be amazed. It's time for Dr. Linda Salvin's Psychic Solutions podcast with America's original radio psychic, Dr. Linda Salvin, offering up her always fascinating blend of psychic psychology, clairvoyant insights, and expert guests and alternative healing methods. So pull up a chair and get ready for a visit with the one and only Dr. Linda. And now, live from Los Angeles, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Linda Salvin.
Hi, welcome back, everybody. It's Psychic Solutions Podcast, and I am Dr. Linda Salvin. I'm a psychic healer, medium, and your metaphysician who hosts the show Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Well, not this Thursday, because there won't be any more shows after tomorrow. And I will wrap that up tomorrow. Then I am going to be going to a different network, but you'll still be able to find me. You just won't find me on this particular network. Today, I'm bringing on a friend by the name of Neal Geyer. Let's bring him on, Rebel. And there's this little backstory here. Hello, Neal. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Neal and I grew up together. We met in high school in 1968. If you do the math, we're older. And that goes back about 56 years. And I always said, like, Neal was the first boy to pick me up for school one day. And we drove, and when he got his license, and, it was exciting when you're young. It was a whole new world when we were starting to grow up. We knew each other from a Jewish organization with B'nai B'rith, and that's how we met, and we all socialized. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here with you.
And as you know, I've been in radio or broadcasting or podcasting for about 30 years or more now. And I believe you've been on TV a few times. You've done some of the broadcasting or the media stuff, haven't you? And then we'll get into your story.
This is my first time doing anything like this. I once did a guest appearance on I forget the Las Vegas Pawn Stars.
That's what I remember seeing you.
Right. So this is my second.
Well, you never know how it grows over time. You just keep doing more and more. And when I get to the next system, I'll bring you back and do even more. But for today, what we're going to talk about, Neal is extremely creative. And when I was in junior college, I believe, we went to the same junior college, which was a whole across the street from our high school. But Neal had rented a house across the street with some of his friends. But he got into making purses and belts and leather goods, wallets, and with the tooling and the, I don't know what kind of paint you use, but the detailing of the flowers and the peace signs and everything that we had back then. And unfortunately, I wish I had kept them because I remember the little purse and the belt. I couldn't get it on today with my hip huggers. But you became a master with the leather. You became a salesperson. Back up. How did you get involved with all of the creativity and to take it into making a product, and then what you've done through the years? We're going to go into what the title of the show is, How to Make Something Out of Nothing, because it came out of you. And once we get into your buildup, we'll let people know what you're doing now.
It started that a neighbor of mine was making leather goods, handmade from scratch. And I started by taking those leather goods to school. This is when I was 15 years old, and I started selling them for him. Hence the beginning of my career.
Entrepreneur.
Well, as an entrepreneurial salesperson more than anything. And I realized that I was missing a step, and the step was to begin to make it myself. So I self-taught how to make the leather goods from scratch, basically starting from nothing, which is a full blank slate of leather, a full hide, and ending up with finished products, belts, bags. I made everything you can imagine out of leather.
Wallace, didn't you also make book covers, if I remembered? Weren't you doing some
book covers, recovered furniture?
Remember.
I mean, through the years, I've done just about anything you can make out of leather from scratch.
Still?
Interesting story, real quick. I got a call about 6-8 months ago from my youngest daughter. And she was telling me about one of her fondest memories of a child was on a stool at my bench making leather goods when she was little. And she asked me, can I have your leather shop? So within the past 4 months, I've actually packed up my entire leather shop and sent it to my younger daughter up in
I'm
Seattle.
getting chills. I remember we touched upon that briefly when we
Yeah,
set this up, but what a legacy, and that she would even want to inherit it and
exactly.
hold it, whether it's just for a memento, or does she want to get into the tooling herself and make things, or does she just want a piece of your
No,
background?
she actually, her and her husband just rebuilt a room to build a shop in it with ventilation and the whole
Wow.
thing. So her husband is a brilliant wood maker. His name is Ryan Firth, and they're going to call it Firth Wood and Leather, and they're going to
Oh
work
my
on.
God, I love this. Again, something out of nothing, but you're
Yeah,
passing it on. Oh,
yeah.
this is
Well, she said she
terrific.
wanted. She said she wanted to be able to call me before I died and ask me what to do with this tool, what to do with that tool.
Well, she's
So
thinking ahead.
it was a very difficult decision for me to give it up. And then once I released it, it's been an absolute joy. And on an aside, I'm still making leather goods. We're in the middle of a prototype process on recreating a bag that I made and sold about 20 years ago, and made one trip down to Mexico to Leon, and we're in the prototype stage. So I'm still going to do it, but I'm not going to make that stuff by myself.
Well, when you do, you let me know and I will buy one because I have to have another Geyer or whatever you're calling it these days. Run that phone number again, please, Rebel. So if anybody's out there watching live, they can call in and talk to Neal at 561-623-9421. That's 623-9421. But most of the people, just so you know, will download later and watch and then maybe call later. But from when we were growing up in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, it was the hippie phase and leather
Mhm.
jackets and bell bottoms and hip huggers and these belts that Neal would make had all different colors of flowers, from the blues and the yellows and the pinks and the reds and the greens, and they you knew it was a Neal. You knew it was his because it was unique, but just the flow of the design. As you got older, what happened? What did you break into? Because I know you sold shoes and you were the shoe sushi for a while. Get into that phase with the shoes, which of course was still leather. You got married, you had your kids. Talk about it. Is he frozen?
There we go.
There you go. Yeah, you were frozen. Did you hear
Um,
what I said, or did you?
yeah, I did hear
Oh,
right after college. I was 19 years old, and that's when I left college. Really, my parents thought I was lost. I didn't think I was lost. So my father actually, who mother and father, who were in the shoe industry their entire careers, said, "I want you to meet someone." And we went to a local shoe show at the Biltmore Hotel, and I met a guy there named Hal Miller, who worked for a company called Bort Carlton, and they made hippie leather sandals and hippie leather bags.
right up
And I
your
was,
alley.
yeah, it was, and that's what led me. And I ended up going to work for them as their road representatives, their salesman on the West Coast. And I ended up spending 8 years with them. And then that kept me in the shoe business for 45 years. Uh, ended about 15 years ago. I stopped about 15 years ago, but I was in the shoe business for 15 years.
And you loved it. And you got to travel and you met a lot of
Mhm.
crazy people, wonderful people, and you never sat still.
No.
But the leather, I mean, I love the smell of leather. You know, there's a very
Mhm.
sexy thing about leather, and that's not, we don't have to take it into where it could go, but there's something passionate and very sensual working with leather, touching leather. The other side of me is like, oh, the poor cow, oh, the poor pig, oh, the poor sheep. But yet they sacrifice for our enjoyment or our food, our nutrition,
Mhm.
our pleasure, whatever. So there's that balance. But all the politics aside, the beautiful different shoes that you've learned about women's feet, mostly women's shoes. Did you get into men's as well? Or
I
was
did.
it
I
most?
did during the sales part. It was mostly women's, but then I went into pure design and traveled all over the world just as a footwear designer, and I did do men's footwear
Wow. What are
for
some of
sure.
the places you traveled? Let's get into that for a moment.
Oh my gosh, I spent a lot of time in Brazil, a lot of time in China, Italy, Spain. Oh, where else did I go? I think that might be about it.
That's a
But
lot.
well, it was because it was many trips. One time I made, I think, 7 trips to Brazil in 1 year. So
Whoa.
I was traveling quite a bit internationally. And Dusseldorf, yeah, so Germany, France, Italy, all over the place.
It's
There's 22
exciting.
countries. One time I took a map and put pins in it.
Yeah,
There's
isn't that fun?
22 countries.
So you're the world traveler. You and your wife are going to Tahiti soon for a vacation,
Mm-hmm.
a well-deserved vacation. Neal remarried what, last year, 2 years ago? You remarried.
It was a year in June.
You're in
No,
June.
a year ago June. So a little over.
Okay. Okay. Well, mazel tov again.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, Neal's first wife had passed away from cancer many years ago, and they had 2 daughters, and they're doing great, and you've raised them, and they love you, and you've got family, and you've got, I mean, you built your life out of nothing. You are more than what your parents probably ever expected being lost. You were quite found. I'm going to fast forward into how you got into reselling, kind of like the estates of people. I've known you at a few. I'd run into you, or I knew so-and-so who passed away, or I found something online I wanted, which I still have. And, Neal goes to estates, homes, apartments, condos, maybe even companies that are downsizing, I don't know, but finds artifacts. Why don't you talk about that? How this started, because you exploded.
Well, it started 15 years ago through necessity that I had lost my wife, and I had lost my business, which I had 2 very successful retail stores up in Seattle. But the world kind of crashed during this period, and I had to really figure out a way to support my children. And I took jobs out of necessity in the shoe industry that were horrible, working for horrible, degrading people. And it came to a point that I just said, I can't do it anymore and survive. So I quit. I just quit the industry after 45 years. With that said, I had to make money. So I started selling things. I taught myself how to do eBay in its infancy, 15 years ago, and started selling things that we had accumulated that we didn't need anymore. And that went on for a while, and we survived and did okay. And then people started coming to me saying, I have this. Will you sell this for me? So then that started my eBay brokerage business. And then
you still do that? You
Hmm?
still do that? Do you still do eBay?
Oh,
Or have a
absolutely.
branch?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to teach someone to do it for me, but it's a slow process because I really don't have the time anymore to
No, because
sit at
you've
a desk
grown. Yeah.
and
This is
listen.
how you grow. This is entrepreneurship, people. I'll bring in my
100%.
own message in a moment, but I want to hear the story go on, because I remember I gave you even that mirror and a few other things to sell on eBay.
Mhm.
Actually, I could have you come back and pick up a whole new bundle of stuff and
Well,
launch it for me.
that's where it all comes from, is friends and family and 15 years of recommendations. I've never advertised, fortunately. It's been great. So it started from there. Then I started doing swap meets. I taught myself to buy certain things that I thought people would want, and I started going to swap meets, and that developed really, really well. I still do the same ones I've been doing for almost 10 years. One in Long Beach, California, and one in Pasadena. And I'm in the same spot. I've been there for almost a decade. So I buy a lot of product for those events, and then quite a while ago, I started an estate sale company called Star Bazaar, and that's developed into a really wonderful business where people contact me, and I basically come in and manage their estate. It can be for someone who's passed away, moved on, or moved into an assisted living, but I come in, completely take over the whole program, and set up the sale, run the sale, and actually complete it through cleaning out the house. I have a crew that does clean outs. So it's a full service estate sale company. And then about 3 years ago, we started an auction company also called Nero Auctions. So when appropriate, we can not just do an estate sale, we can also do an auction through an online platform.
I love
So
that.
I'm busy. I'm very, very grateful.
And you don't give up. And people, the message is you just keep going. And every time I talk to Neal, I joke almost. I say, how we go from high school to 70? Where did the time go? Can't remember everything in between. It just kind of like goes fast. those of you that are younger tuning in, you may not understand how fast it goes until you get past your 40s and 50s. The next thing you know, you're what? Neal and his wife were at my birthday party. It's almost 6.5 months ago when I turned 70. It's like, how are we 70? Weren't we just 14? It goes fast, but the journey, and you don't know where you're headed. You think you're going this way, but then it goes this way and you're up and down and back and forth and loss. I lost my business at one point. I was embezzled. So I know what it feels like to lose when you're working hard, you're finally establishing something, then the rug gets pulled. And yes, several years ago when the market fell and the retail fell, and then we went into the rebuild, and then we had the lockdown. It's been hard. It's been hard. But all through this, when you want to give up, like I did when I got embezzled after I produced a infomercial with Kris Jenner, I paid her. Nobody would hire her, and I paid her before she became the momager with the Kardashians. And I was starting to do things, and then the embezzlement took over, and my mom died. CBS radio went off the air, and then I pulled the infomercial. It all hit at once. And you can only handle so much. It's like losing your wife and losing your career. When it hits big. I mean, it's like you don't know what to do, who to go to. And a lot of people don't understand your grief, your fear, your anxiety, or the fact that you want to give up, and yet something gave you that glimmer of hope. That little mustard seed was still in you, Neal, to keep going, even though it takes some time to rebuild. And same thing happened to me. I gave up. I wanted out of here. I was done in 2014. It's like, goodbye. I don't need to live anymore. And I had some professional help. Like, hey, it's not the end of the world. It's just bad times. No, but you don't understand. We always think nobody understands. More people understand than will admit. And I acknowledge you for talking about this, because this is what makes this show. It's the human factor involved.
Well, I was near death after all of this happened with my wife and my business and everything. And
you mean emotionally, or were you depressed near death? That kind, or you're
all of the above. I
was suicidal.
I was wasted. I was never suicidal, but I was wasted.
Ideation.
And I came up with a pet expression: you either get out of bed or you don't get out of bed. And I've held on to that my whole life, because that's your two choices. You stay in bed or you get out of bed. And my personality, what's in me, is that I get out of bed and I put one foot in front of the other, and I rebuilt a beautiful life that now is paying dividends tenfold over what I thought it was 20 years ago.
I love this, because that's the magic when we don't give up. Of course, I wouldn't have actually taken my life, but I mean, I was screaming for help. I was really in a bad place. I mean, I built, I thought, and then I didn't know what to do, especially when you're a solo entrepreneur like you are and I am, and you don't have a lot of help to build or keep it going. You're doing the books, you're doing the sales, you're doing the marketing, you're doing the tooling, you're doing it all. You're a one-arm paper hanger, as my dad would say. You're juggling everything. And then when it all stops, or the money or the stores or whatever, it's like you're raped, you're violated. You're like, what do you do? And it's okay to be depressed, people. It's okay to get down. It's okay. I spent some time alone. I spent some time in bed. It was like, I don't want to talk. But then something changes, and that's that faith, that courage, like get out of bed, and it's one step at a time. But I'm 50 and all my friends are this and these are retiring and they got the big house. Because if you're like me, you're comparing your insides to their outsides, thinking they got it better because they got all that, and you're starting over again. And I had to stop. And I also teach people, don't just compare to who's got all that out there, because you don't know what they're really feeling or what their losses are. It may look good, but they're still living their lives. And it's not always as pretty as it looks. And you find out when you really talk to somebody, right? Yeah. That's the illusion. Yeah. That's the illusion. But you have faith, you have strength. Go ahead.
The richness is not monetary. The richness is what you have around
your soul,
you
and what's in your heart.
And the people you're with. That's
absolutely.
I'm a very rich man because of my family, and I'm healthy. And I have something I look forward to getting up and doing every day. So it has nothing to do with money.
It's not the bank account. It's what you have around you. Of course it does. It makes it a little easier. But some of us have to work a little harder to get there, which is where I know this thing in Dubai. I'm a keynote speaker. I found out over 40 countries are being represented. with all these people. I can't get into what's going on with it, but I am a keynote speaker, and one of the keynote speakers last year came back with a very hefty investor, and this guy's already told me who's interested in one of my products. So who knows what's going to happen? But the thing is, we don't stop, even though 70, you're supposed to be in a rocking chair on the porch, right? You're supposed to be not having activities, and you're not supposed to keep living. There's a part of me that feels younger and happier and more whole now than I did in my 40s or 50s when I thought I was happy. It keeps getting better if you allow it. And yes, you get out of bed and you look at the sun, or you take a walk, or you talk to somebody, and you know you're not alone. You fell in love all over again. You got married again. Did you ever think there was a time it wouldn't happen? I mean, you went through a lot of pain.
Absolutely. I never expected to find someone like Cheryl.
Sure.
And I never expected to have the extended family I have, and the home I have. No, I didn't expect any of this. But another thing I've done since my world flip was I go like this, and
thank you.
Just bring it.
Yeah.
And once I learned how to accept and receive, life got really good.
That's the surrender, when you get out of the way and you can ask for some help, or you let someone help you. We have a question coming in. Somebody wants to know where you met your current wife.
An odd story. My wife, who we lost, had a friend named, her name is Andy. And Andy actually introduced me to Cheryl. So a friend of my wife introduced me to my new wife. So it's really
it's kind of a shared, it's kind of like one of those odd or God kind of things. It's divine 100%. Intervention, almost like she wanted you to be with somebody you can love and trust, and it's okay. So as opposed to just being out there, the universe took care of you one more time.
Yeah. So it was very it was very, very interesting how we met. After a little bit of a unusual start, we haven't had an argument in 5 years, not even a disagreement in 5 years. And we've built a really terrific family together, and both feel very lucky and very grateful.
You are. No, you were brought together
100%.
And with my job, or me as the spiritual one, I see how, whoever was the angels or your actual spirit, somebody said, okay, he's ready, she's ready, let's do it. And then the friend in between, Andy, was the conduit, and then it all blossomed. But you cannot think, if maybe when we were kids, we didn't quite understand it as much, but as adults, you start seeing all the coincidences and how everything comes together as a tapestry. Like, how is it planned? Is there a purpose for all of this? We all have different karmic lessons. There's a group of people that Neal has been friends with since high school, maybe even longer. And I know all those people. I'm not part of that group anymore, but my heart's there. I want to be.
You do know them. Yeah,
I do. I mean, and I still have pictures from junior college.
Some are 56-year relationships. I had dinner 2 nights ago with someone who's been my friend since she was 13.
I love that.
Yeah.
No, you're very lucky.
I've always said that they are one of the great blessings in my life, are my guys or girls, whatever you say, but they're all my guys. And we all talk every week. Still, for 50 some years, we talk every week.
It's so special.
We vacation together. We go away together. And their wives are now my sisters, and they're my brothers. And it's a pretty special group. You know them all.
I do, and I pop up like every 6 months. Hi, how you doing? Let's have dinner. You want to come to a party? Want to do the show? Because I'm not in the nucleus, but I know on the outside, Neal and I still have that friendship, even though I'm not in the circle. I'm on the outer. It's still part of being a friend. It's just part of. It's like we have friendships that can go on for lives because we're still connected. If there wasn't some type of admiration or connection, I wouldn't be talking. You wouldn't be here, But there's always this little connection that goes way back and into the moment. So here you're making all of these big strides, and you've got this beautiful new home, and you've got the money coming in, and you're still busy to the point like, oh, you're training someone how to list the eBay. Now you're training somebody to take over because you're growing. So over the next 6-10 years, you're going to keep doing this. Do you think you're going to retire at 80, or you want to bail out at 75, or you're not even planning because you don't know?
I have no idea. I physically feel better than I've ever felt. So I have the strength and the endurance. Um, I have no desire to retire, none. I don't, I'm done at 2 o'clock. I'm at the pool every day at 2:30. So, you know, why would I want to change my life? I have fun all morning. I get up really early, work, and then I'm usually done by 2 o'clock.
I
And
think it's great. I
yeah, it's a
think it's
great life. I mean, I've built a nice lifestyle. So no, I have no desire. I still love the rush of the deal. Um,
That's
uh,
sales. Yep. It's that
yeah,
close. Yep.
yeah,
Somebody bought this, somebody like that, somebody wants it, somebody's they're arguing over who's going to buy it, they're going to bid on it. No, I get what sales is. I've been
yeah.
selling me and shows and products for over 30 years. I
I
get
know,
that.
I know.
There's something that we thrive on, and that's what makes us, but it's the creativity. It's the
I like the
creativity.
action. I
Yeah.
like the action. I really do. And then when I think it's over, blah blah blah, it's like, oh, there's nothing going on. The phone rings
Yeah.
because I don't stress about it anymore.
Because you've learned the ebbs and flows, that it's only a moment. I've learned, like if I travel, all of a sudden the orders aren't coming in. I'm like, oh my God, I'm on this trip. It's going to cost that. I got to write it off. I got to do this. But it's almost like the universe takes care, because a day or two after I'm back from jet lag or whatever, the phone rings, the orders are in. You don't have to, it takes care of itself. And you have finally learned, as again, the acceptance, like let go. It is there. You've built,
100%.
but a lot of people don't always fall as deeply as you and I have from that level to like now what, losing everything, starting over again. My dad's turning 95 on the 13th. They're the 5th, right? You're the 5th, and my sister's the 6th. So all you Leos. But my dad retired at 57 and then started another something and got into another career, and then started real estate at 79, and he retired at 92.
Amazing.
Now he's turning 95 and his dementia's setting in. Sometimes he doesn't remember me. Sometimes he does, or he's called last week looking for his sister who's been gone since 2010. But, it happens. I hope we live long enough to not remember your name.
Exactly.
But he was an example. He started a company at 36 and got out at 56 or 57 and then went into financing. And you just keep going. You just keep going, even though we dip and we fall. If you were like me, it's kind of embarrassing. I was embarrassed. I felt like I had really been a failure when everything toppled. But then when I stood back, I created all that. It wasn't my fault I got embezzled. It's not my fault CPS closed their doors. It wasn't my fault my mom died. I had 3 huge, depressing losses. And we have to learn people. You lose a dog, you lose a fish, you lose a cat, you lose a human. It's okay. We break. We don't always have to be out there like smiling when we're hurting. And if you took the time, you restructured, you rebuilt, and you've got more than you could have ever bargained for, because everybody's always been there to love you. And you love yourself back. And you're here.
I was broke. There's no doubt about it in every aspect of it, emotionally, physically, financially. And I got out of bed.
But sometimes that's what you need to rebuild the soul, the spirit, learn your lessons, get rid of old behaviors that don't work, and reposition you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have fun along the way too?
I'm still having a lot of fun. I still have a lot of fun.
If there's somebody out there, I'm sure you are, if somebody out there is dreaming big dreams of starting their own business or being entrepreneurial, and that means you've got like one idea that leads to another idea, and that leads to another idea. Some people like you and me, we can see, well, I'll add that to the brand, I'll add that to the brand, I'll add this, well, I might as well do that. Next thing you know, you got this brand.
Correct.
What do you advise to somebody new that might be listening or is listening and doesn't know how to get started besides getting out of bed?
First thing you do that I learned is passion and research and hard work. It really comes down to those 3 things. You have to have the passion for what you're doing, or it just will be a job. But if you have the passion to build something or follow a dream, and then you do the research and learn. I mean, every day I learn something new. Every single day I learn about a certain object or a certain artist or a certain sculptor, I have to learn every day. I research like crazy, and that research allows me to grow confidently and steady but slow. Steady, slow growth, research, be passionate, and believe in yourself. I mean, bottom line is you have to you got to get out of bed and you got to really execute. You got to do the work.
But
And
you just said the main thing. If you believe in
execute.
yourself, and a lot of people say, Neal, what are you doing? Or Linda, what are you doing? I don't believe in psychics. I don't believe in this. I don't believe in that. And all of a sudden, the world acknowledges things that certain groups of people think is wacko or cuckoo.
Mhm.
But you stayed on your path. You believed what was inside. Like if you thought your parents said you were lost, you knew you weren't lost. You had a dream. You had some feelings. You had some ideas. They couldn't see, understand, or they were too worried you wouldn't make it to support yourself. But you did. You stayed true to yourself.
I sold out a little bit, but I turned that sell out. It wasn't really what I had planned for myself, but I did sell out and go into an industry. But I learned everything I learned during that during those years helped me to do what I do now. So in hindsight, I was pushed in the right direction, even though I fought it every step of the way. And it turns out I have lifelong friends from that industry, and I'm still in it. So here it is. I don't know how add the years up. I don't know how many years.
I stopped adding years. Okay, so from 68, which was 56, just subtract from wherever you picked up in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. The 90s are already 30 years ago. So I mean, it's getting up kind of, those are the oldies on the radio now. The 90s, not the 60s, not the 70s, the 90s are the oldies. Yeah, no, it's
absolutely no sense at all.
It's it's weird. Rebel, come on in and join us for a second, would you? What do you have? I know you've got something on your mind because you're very entrepreneurial. Now, Rebel's in Louisiana, and Rebel's studying law, and Rebel's got huge ideas for what she wants to do. She's in her 50s. You just keep going. I knew people in their late 50s and 60s that got their law degree. But what would you want to ask Neal in relation to either meeting his wife or the entrepreneurship? I unfortunately didn't get samples of photos to put on the show. I wasn't even thinking of displaying some of the work, but we can do that another time. But Rebel, what would you want to say to Neal or ask?
When you are working with leather, do you have the inspiration beforehand, or do you get the leather in your hand and feel what it's meant to be?
That's a great question. No, it's the second. I have an idea. I want to make a belt. That's the idea. But once I look at the leather, it starts to open itself up to me. The grain, the shapes, the color. So like I've told my daughter, who's now taking over, if you will, everything I ever made had mistakes in it. It was never perfect. It was never meant to be perfect, because you start with one idea and it ends up something else through the creative process. So yes, it's what you said on the back end of that question. It develops because of the materials and the lighting and the color and an idea that changes in the middle of what you're making. It does change from what your initial idea, and that's why there's mistakes, but they're all perfect.
Perfect mistakes. Awesome.
I love that. Yeah, nothing's perfect. So when we really look at art, we might see perfection for why we love it, but the artist, the creator, knows what could have been fixed or could have been done differently or what's sitting there. But to the person who's admiring it, we don't see the mistakes. So it's an imperfect, perfect piece. I love that.
I think all artists feel exactly the same way.
Songs are never done exactly. Right. Melodies are never right. The tone, the lyrics, because I still write songs. My book has been re-edited I don't know how many times in 30, 40 years, because the chapters keep changing. The story keeps changing. I add something, I forgot something, I deleted something. I keep evolving. So the book hasn't been ready. Someone said, what's taking so long? I said, it's not done yet. You know, my book to get out there from the plane crash to this just isn't done yet. So it's like that tooling. Well, maybe it does need a flower. Maybe it does need a little horseshoe. Maybe it does need a butterfly, or maybe I shouldn't use this leather. Maybe I need to use this piece over here. Maybe I should start over. Maybe I need more white. And that's the creative mind, analyzing your own work as you go.
Yeah. And I did throw a lot of things away and start over. But most of it, I haven't done it for a little bit. actually sat at a bench and made something from scratch, except
Well,
on
because
paper.
you're so successful and so busy with the
I have
swap
no,
meets. You
I have,
are in an
I have no,
apartment,
I
and
have no room for a shop.
no, you don't. You're at an estate sale. I see the pictures when you post online, or
Yeah,
I even had Neil come to me. There was a lamp I inherited from my mom and dad that I really didn't want anymore. And yes, it had a designer name attached. It's like, whatever, take it, and gave me some money. And I didn't have to deal with selling it, but you sold it eventually, or I got rid of certain things that I just don't need all the clutter. I'm at that point where how much do I really want to let go of? How much do I really need to hold on to? So you
Mhm.
have people that come to you to downsize, or yes,
Yeah,
like if they're going into assisted living, or unfortunately, like Randy or other people who passed away, and
yes.
you know, people find
No,
you.
I go through an amazing amount of stuff. And to your point about what you do for yourself, we live a very minimalist uh, life. We do not have a lot of clutter. I don't have a lot of personal things anymore. I deal with so much stuff from the high end to the low end that I just don't want anything anymore. I'm very happy with what I already have. We moved in here a year and a half. I've added one painting. Otherwise, nothing's changed since we moved in. I haven't
I
added
remember
any.
when you first showed me the pictures and how excited you were, and I saw the minimalist walls. I thought, wow, it's very zen. It's very calm. The patio, the way it was set with the sofa, and then one or two photos, and just enough to relax without stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's hard to get rid of stuff. How do you deal with the people that you're dealing with that sometimes, "Oh, I don't know if I can get rid of this sweater. I don't know if I can get rid of these books. I don't know
Great
if I should
question.
get rid of how the emotions that we are so attached."
It's very simple. I don't allow them to be part of the process because it's not healthy for them to be part of the process. Even in my contract, it says the homeowner or the heir is not allowed to be there during setup or the sale because it's way too emotional for
Mhm.
them, and it also gets in the way of me actually doing a good job for them. So people, what I advise people, they can do what they want, but my advice is always take what you and the family want, close the door, give me the key. I will come back to you in a week with an envelope of cash, and the house will be clean. And basically go like this and release, because they can't be there seeing um, something that was their mom's be sold for $100 when they feel it's worth 1,000.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's unrealistic for people to do what I do for their own stuff. And it's just, it's emotionally unhealthy. I've seen a lot of people really have tough times with it. And I just can't allow that anymore for their sake and mine. It's not a good thing.
That's what I work with on the emotional and spiritual level of attachment, whether it's relationships, if it's material, if it's the job, even if it's money. I lost a dog 2 years ago. It took me 2 years, 2.5. It's taken me 2 years to feel okay that she's gone. Loss is loss.
Yeah.
My mom, I must have been in eighth grade, knit a sweater, this peach sweater with a little dicky, because we wore dickies back then. I kept that thing in my trunk and schlepped it to college, to every home I've lived in. And I think it was about 2 years ago. I looked at this little sweater that would not fit me, nor did I like the color, but I thought, I can't get rid of it. My mother made it, right? So there's that
Mhm.
emotion. This little voice popped up, and I know it was my mom coming and saying, let someone else wear it.
Right.
So I gave it away. But the feeling of guilt, or, well, what if, it's still, sometimes I'll think about it, and I'm just hoping somebody's appreciating that sweater that my mother made. You can't find it in a store. It's not mass produced. It's not from China. This was handmade. I didn't put a
Mhm.
note on it. I just let it go. And it's hard letting go, getting rid of
Yes.
college books, getting rid of albums, getting rid of anything, especially if they're heirlooms. Or you go into a house or a condo, Neil, and some people really don't have anything of value, but a lot of junk. I mean, literally
Oh,
stuff.
absolutely.
What do you
I
do if you don't really have anything that you can really resell, and tell the people it's like there's nothing really marketable? When you looked at perfume bottles, you let me know these are valuable, these aren't.
Right.
And I thought, what do you mean? These were, you saw the value that I don't, and a lot of people do not.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of homes I go into a lot of homes to preview whether I want to do the estate sale or not. And some of them I'm at the point, fortunately, if they're really horrible odors or pets and they're disgusting dirty, I just don't do them. But if they're stuff that really is of no value, and the family's taken everything that they want for themselves, we'll probably just clean it and make everything disappear. Because I also advise people that the money's not in the couple $1,000s worth of stuff you have. The money's in the home. And they have and you have to get to the bottom line, which is the ability to get the home cleaned, painted, carpeted, whatever, and get
To
ready
resell.
for resell, to sell or rent. And my job is to do that transition for you, make it easy. And sometimes it's not worth having an estate sale. It's just better to have my crew come in and just clean it, and then turn it over to them, turn it back to them for clean for painting or carpeting, whatever they and the real estate agent do.
Do you have a website if people wanted to find you? I know you're in
I'm
Southern
so
California.
glad you asked. I do. It's starbazaar.net.
One R?
STARBAZAAR.net. Starbazaar.net.
I'll put
And
that in there.
if somebody in New York needs me and the stuff is good enough,
You'll fly.
I'd love to go to New York.
I just got back from New York. It was beautiful. I was in Long Island for a week. It was gorgeous. I could see myself living there. Some of the homes and on the shore and up in the north part. Oh my God, it's so different from being in Manhattan. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
New York's great, but this is still home. And I think you're the same way. Is there any place in the world that you would ever think of relocating to, or do you still always come back home to California? And you've lived elsewhere?
I've lived in Northern California, and I've lived in Seattle for 12, 13 years. No, where we are in Camarillo, I don't ever want to leave. It's
perfect.
I just can't believe I'm here. It's that wonderful. I'm very, very, very grateful that we're living in Camarillo.
I remember how excited you were when you let me know you just found a new house and that everything was falling into place, and how excited you were.
Yeah.
And when do you leave for Tahiti? This is July. We're doing the show July 30th, 2024. When do you go?
December 23rd of this year
okay.
through New Year's. We'll be there for Christmas and New Year's.
Just as I'm getting back from my trip, you guys will be on the way for your trip. What a way to end the year. That'll be terrific. Speaking of endings, we've got about 5 minutes left here. So, Rebel, why don't you come back on?
Yes.
What's your next question? Because I can hear your brain moving.
I just want to know,
I've worked with her a year.
As you are going through people's things, have you ever come across someone who had an emotional attachment and just couldn't let things go?
Oh, of course. And I say, don't let go. Take it with you. If it's an individual item or two, they should take it with them. But has anybody backed out and just said, I can't do it yet? Absolutely.
That too.
Every combination, Rebel, that you can think of, I've seen in this estate and relocation, one way or the other, to a new home or to the great beyond. There's no hard and fast rules. It's really, my goal is to do what's best for the owners. Whatever way they want to do it, we'll work around it. We'll make it work, because it's their stuff, and I kind of respect that. So whatever they want to do is fine with me.
It's hard. It's hard. I got rid of a suitcase. My mom schlepped around the world for years, and I took it on one trip, and I thought, oh my God, does it have wheels? Because it was older, but I thought I'd schlep it. And my arm hurt, and I thought, I got to get rid of it. No, I can't get rid of it. My mother's just got our initials. It's like, get rid of it. I got rid of it. But we go through this torment with our minds, and we banter inside ourselves or with our partner or our friends or whatever. What do I do? What do I do? And like you said, it's like getting out of bed. I guess we just have to let go when it's time to let go. How many times have you seen something that you personally thought you would want to buy or keep?
A lot.
But you can't take it all home. Cheryl won't allow it. Where are you going to put it?
I have a warehouse.
Just to store it for later.
No, I don't bring anything I bring very little, not anything. I bring very little home now. If it's something that I buy that I want to sell at a later date, I just put it in the warehouse.
I think that's wonderful. So I've been talking to Neal Geyer, people. This is a man that I met when we were teenagers. We were 14 and 15, I guess, back in 1968. And we've stayed in contact through the years, on and off. And I remember seeing you in San Jose when I lived in San Francisco. And I kind of remember when you moved back up to Washington and the kids, and when your wife passed away, and there's been reunions and, grapevines. And we're still here, people. And if you're younger, we're here to tell you it really does get better as you get older. As long as you stay healthy and you have love and you communicate and you don't hold on to your pain, you get rid of the resentments, you get rid of the anger. It's a process. Sometimes the universe will do it for you. Take away your store, take away your business, take away a loved one. Sometimes we're forced into growth. Sometimes we're forced into finding something greater than yourself to trust, believe, have faith, and get out of bed and take that next step towards your own success. Neal, you've integrated. You've got the families. You've got your friends. You've got your business. You've got your home. You're traveling. You have finally arrived at your life where you're content and it works. And there's still more to do. There's still more. This isn't it. So people don't think just because you're 60 and then Medicare. No, you're not dying. You're not at the end. You don't have to stop. A lot of people do. A lot of people give up. A lot of people get old because they don't stay active. They don't research. Like Neal was saying, how research. I'm online researching things all the time too. I dig. And it'll keep you going. You want to stay inspired. You want to find that next big thing. When I knew Neal as a kid, none of us knew where we were going to end up. None of us. We were just going to school and talking and smoking some dope and wearing belts and purses and having a good time, or going to a movie or a dance. And, we just lived. But then life takes on responsibilities. And if you still don't know what that is, think of what Neal said, that passion. And I've talked about passion for the last 30 years. Find that direction and the rest will take care of itself. A lot of time people call, say, I want to start a business. I'll say, great. What do you want to do? I don't know. I'll say, well, what's your passion? What did you love as a kid? What turns you on? Is it baking? Is it cooking? Is it shoes? Is it shopping? Is it, is it computers? Is it travel? What do you love? Oh, okay. Then I get them to narrow it down. Same thing with you as you're mentoring people. There's people coming to you for mentorship because you're like their bright light. You're now the master and you can teach and pass on the baton, especially to your daughter. Give us the name of her store one more time, she and her husband.
Oh, it's that's just the name they've
It
come
will
up
be,
with.
yeah.
They haven't even built the shop yet. They're building the room, and everything I sent up is all in boxes in the garage. We're quite a ways away from that.
Okay, well, on the next show, we'll come back on and maybe even bring her on and we'll do a duet. You never
would be
know
lovely.
how we can do both, and then we'll have pictures and all that, but that's afterwards. We're at the tail end. Rebel, we got 3 minutes. What are we going to do for the next 1 minute? We'll wrap it all up with spiritual, insightful information, because if people just believe, you just believe in that little mustard seed. It's not about God in a church or a temple. I don't do religion, but there is an energy, people, and it starts inside yourself. And if you can't even find it within yourself to say, okay, God, I don't know what to do. What do you want me to do? And doors will open. Every time I say that, a plane goes over, because that's what I had to do after the plane crash. I had no clue after that. My whole life fell apart. And eventually, from all those fragments, you integrate, you get whole again. We are residual. We are resistant. We are able to reconcile our past. We're coming into a retrograde right now, by the way, which will last to the end of August. So it's going to be kind of tough with rebounding from a lot of energies out there. So hold on for that. One more time, if you're interested in anything Neal's got to offer you or his services, you want to go to starbazaar.net, which is STARBAZAAR. Only Neal would do this. .net. You got to be super creative to do something off color, but yeah, the Star Bazaar. How'd you come up with that quickly? Where did you come up with that one?
I don't
It is
remember.
bizarre.
It is bizarre.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Neal's bizarre. I'm bizarre. You're all bizarre. Rebel,
Absolutely.
you're bizarre, but we're all resilient and we all come back. And it's like those are the clown dolls we grew up with. We hit it on sand, it topples over, but it always bounces back up. And that's what you've done. Yeah, but you've done it, and I'm so thrilled to hear all your progress. And I have more stuff. I'll have you come back and clean out more, and I'd love just to get together with you and Cheryl. But have a wonderful afternoon. I'll see you backstage. I want to thank you for joining us and sharing your experience and giving other people some hope as to what they might be able to do from an idea, or maybe an insecurity within themselves. Like if they just start, it could evolve into something down the road, one step at a time, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This was
Thank
very
you, Geyer. We'll be back in a moment. This is Dr. Linda Salvin. I'm saying goodbye for Psychic Solutions podcast. It just starts with a dream. It starts with a hope. It starts with a thought. Don't let anybody tell you no. If they think that's no, prove them wrong. Go do it for yourself, because you're going to wake up one morning and go, wow, I did that. You can. If you need some help, give me a call up there. If you want to talk to Neal and sell some stuff or have him review things, especially in Southern California, Star Bazaar, spelled bizarrely, STARBAZAAR.net. If you can't find him, come to me and I'll get you to him. That's the end of the show. Rebel, thanks for everything. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Tomorrow I have a Psychic and the Shrink. I have a psychiatrist coming on. We're going to talk about life after COVID, because after lockdown, there's been a lot of changes in people's lives. Emotionally, there was a lot of addiction. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of getting going again. And like Neal said, just get out of bed. Take a step at a time. See you then. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed Dr. Linda Salvin's Psychic Solutions podcast. You can reach Dr. Linda at 888-509-1077 or at lindasalvin.com. Need a breakthrough of your own? Ready for answers or insights nobody else has? Reserve your own one-on-one in-person chat. Dr. Linda isn't just for other people. Dr. Linda gets results for you. And it's easy. Contact details are on screen now. Just click on lindasalvin.com or call toll-free 888-509-1077. That's lindasalvin.com or toll-free at 888-509-1077.